Welcome one and all, I'm Decoy, back with a special episode of Cool Camp Locations, where this week all of them are in the Savage Divide, which is possibly my favorite region of the map, partially because it's right there in the middle, making it an excellent hopping off point to other locations. It's also kind of nice because the enemies can be high level, so you get a little bit more out of killing them. Now, as for our first location, we've got a set of cabins on a cliff. This is still kind of on my bucket list for wanting to come here and actually build something. One cool thing I do like about this spot is if you place your camp down in between the first cabin and this one, you do it just right, you can get both cabins into your camp area. Another pretty neat thing about this spot is off the edge of the cliff it overlooks one of the nuclear launch silos, so that if someone launches a nuke from that silo, you got an excellent view. Now the third cabin, I don't really like it quite as much, but if you're camping over there at the first two, you can always run over here, loot this one, and go about your business. Now the only special thing about the third cabin is it does have a satellite dish on it, similar to the one that you can build at camps if you picked it up in the atomic shop. Now the location does have an awesome view, and of course down there you can see the launch silo. Really cool spot, and someday I'm gonna have to come back here and build. Hopefully this spot isn't kidnapped and used in Wastelanders. I got my fingers crossed. Now let's move up a little bit to a location that I have got to see a couple people build at. Not a lot, but I've seen a couple people. That is what it is. Now, this spot, personally, I think it'd be awesome to build more of a, I don't know, like a little village, Cliffside Village. Because you got all the walkways going through. You do get a little bit of flat land here and there. But I could just see having various little shacks here and there all around the area. You got your walkways that double as little roads between your structures here. Now, there's not a ton going on with the location as far as, like, say, containers. But there is a little bit of junk spread around the area. But again, I do see a lot of potential for doing more of a town-style build. And it is a fairly large build area. So I think to fully take advantage, you're going to have to find a spot kind of halfway up to place your camp down, so that you can take advantage of some of the higher up area, some of the lower areas. Really just make the most out of this location. It does have an awesome view overlooking White Spring. It's a solid little location. And I know there's a lot of people that want to live in the general vicinity of White Spring. I think this would probably put them more on the outer edge of living near White Spring, but solid spot nonetheless. Now we'll move up into the White Spring vendor bubble to a lovely little cabin, and the first thing I have to say about it is it does have an animal spawn at the location, meaning that rabbits, squirrels, radstag, that kind of thing can spawn here, which is really nice if one of the dailies involves killing one of the oddball animals. Then you have a chance of it being at your camp and you don't have to go running around the world to find one. Now, as for the cabin itself, you do have quite a few containers scattered around in here. A little bit of junk, but you do get a Nuka Shine bottle, which is solid. I mean, drunk people just showing up at your camp to buy stuff, it's a solid business strategy right there. Now, outside, you do get a little bit of wood, a little bit more junk here and there, and a radstag hanging from a tree. I mean, free food's awesome, unless you're a herbivore, in which case that radstag's probably not going to do you any good. Additionally, you do have the little outhouse, so you don't have to build a porta potty. Now, as for its location, I would definitely consider this to be in the White Spring vendor bubble that people like to try to camp in. And it's a little bit less popular of a spot, which should make camping a little bit better for you. Now we'll move up quite a bit so we can check out a camper. And the first thing I gotta say about campers is I love these things. I wish I could build them at my camp. It's cool that we got the bungalow camper, but that's really not the camper I want to build. I want to build this camper, completely empty on the inside so I can do whatever I want with it. Now this one is one of the better choices out there in the wasteland because it does come with a weapons workbench and it does have a little bit of empty space for you to mess around with. Additionally, you do get your wood piles outside. I know how much some of you love that. Now out in front of the camper you do have a little bit of junk and another container, but it's what's off the edge of the cliff that really matters. Because down on a ledge down below, you do have some more junk, another container. Actually, you get a couple containers, sorry. I mean, you get the chem box, and a cooler, and a cooking station. Alright, if you place your camp right, that is 2 free workbenches for your camp. And that's just awesome. I mean, anything that's going to save your camp budget makes your camp that much better. It lets you do a lot more with it. As for this one's location, that is perfect in my book, because you're almost dead center of the map. Awesome for traveling. Now we'll move up quite a bit more to what is one of my favorite raider locations. Now immediately off to the right, you do have to be careful because down that way there is several landmines, and yeah, you just be careful and know that they're there. Now as for the location itself, you do kind of have like a raider roadblock checkpoint thing going on. Comes with a couple watchtowers that are linked together. You do get quite a few containers scattered about here and there. A little bit of junk that you can pick up. Got a little raider tent right here. And then you do get a building back here that has some more goodies in it. But it does have one thing that annoys the ever-loving heck out of me. And that is a fake bed. I don't know why we have to have fake beds everywhere. I suppose you could just say the heck with it and throw like a sleeping bag on top of it. But man, fake beds are annoying. And of course you do have dead bodies everywhere because it is a raider camp. And no enemies actually spawn there. They will spawn down the road or right above this area. But there is no set spawn for the location itself. So you may have to worry about a stray scorch beast from time to time. Now we're going to wrap it up with a really interesting location. Well, I guess it's kind of interesting. It all depends on what kind of build you're going for. Now if you're wanting to build like a refugee camp, the Wasteland Refugee Camp, this would be awesome. Because this spot has a bunch of tents. It has multiple cooking stations just scattered throughout. Downside, enemies do spawn here. You have to be aware of it. Now this time of course it was super mutants. But yeah, enemies are going to spawn here. You're going to have to be ready to deal with that. But you do get more tents in this area than almost anywhere else in the game. And of course, like I said, if you're going to build like a refugee style camp, tents. Tents galore. You can set up your own tent city down here. And again, yeah, lots of cooking stations. And to be fair, some of the containers aren't half bad. Of course, we had a recipe further back. I know I've seen mods spawn here. All sorts of little goodies here, just kind of scattered around. But again, I know the enemies are a major deterrent. Now, as for its location, of course, we've just started at the bottom of the map and worked our way up. So the location will be towards the top of the map. Now, on a side note, I do want to talk about my card opening videos real quick. I know I didn't do one last week because I was sick and I really didn't want to mess around with it. I am still sick and I really still don't want to mess around with it. So I'm going to put any card openings on the back burner until I'm feeling well enough to deal with it. But that's going to wrap up this one. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll be back next week with Meyer locations. Please remember to like, sub, and share. Later.